Okay, good afternoon everyone. It's wonderful to see so many familiar faces and friends in the audience. My name is Tash Polyzos and it's a pleasure to welcome you here to the Bio21 Institute at the University of Melbourne. And we're here to celebrate the opening of the ARC Industrial Transformation Training Centre Chemical Industries. Firstly, I would like to respectfully acknowledge the Wurundjeri people who are traditional owners and custodians on the land on which we meet today, and pay my respect to the elders, past and present and future of the Wurundjeri people. I particularly acknowledge our distinguished guests here today, Senator James Paterson, Professor Sue Thomas, Professor Jim McCluskey, Professor Aleks Owczarek, and Professor Andrew Holmes. The ARC Training Centre for Chemical Industries will foster transformative and innovative research in Australia's chemical and advanced manufacturing sectors through a new industry-led research training program. Enabled by significant investment from the Australian Research Council, the Centre brings together three leading universities: the University of Melbourne, the University of New South Wales, and Swinburne University of Technology. It also brings together chemistry industry leaders. This includes Dulux Australia, Qenos, PPG, CSIRO, and DCS Technical. It also brings together the peak industry body, Chemistry Australia, in a unique collaboration. The new partnerships will provide greater alignment between the chemical industry's need for highly skilled STEM graduates and the university's aim of providing new and relevant career pathways for students. Through research excellence, the Centre will also contribute to innovation in the industry and foster sector growth and job creation. As Director of the Centre, it's exciting for me to share with you today our vision of the ARC Training Centre for Chemical Industries. We are confident that the Centre will lead to deeper collaboration, knowledge sharing and relationship building between the Australian chemical industry and academia. I would now like to welcome our distinguished guest, Professor Sue Thomas, CEO of the Australian Research Council.
Thank you very much, Dr. Polyzos, and good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to start by acknowledging the Wurundjeri people as the traditional owners and custodians of the lands on which we meet, pay my respects to their elders past and present, and extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in the room today. I too would like to acknowledge our distinguished guests, particularly Senator James Paterson, Senator for Victoria, Professor Jim McCluskey, Deputy Vice-Chancellor Research here at the University of Melbourne, Professor Aleks Owczarek, Deputy Dean of the Faculty of Science of the University of Melbourne, Professor Laura Parry, Associate Dean of Research Science, University of Melbourne, Professor Andrew Holmes, Fellow of the Royal Society and former President of the Australian Academy of Science, and of course, Dr. Tash Polyzos, Director of the ARC Training Centre for the Chemical Industries, Professor Martina Stenzel, Deputy Director of the ARC Training Centre for the Chemical Industries, and the many representatives of the partner organisations in this training centre, and of course staff, students and researchers from the University of Melbourne and other institutions. I'm very pleased to be here again today to meet you all. I came to a very successful function earlier in the year that was held out at Carlton, where that was an industry networking event, and I do recall meeting some of your partners who are here today. So it's a great pleasure to be back and to promote the importance of the training centres funded by the ARC Industrial Transformation Training Centres scheme, which is designed to foster close partnerships between university-based researchers and research end users, as well as boosting tangible research outcomes that are closely linked to industry needs. The scheme creates innovative opportunities for higher degree by research and postdoctoral training, and both of those in industry-focused area. So it is designed to strengthen the capabilities of Australia's vital industries, and certainly this centre has positioned itself well with an impressive array of industry partners and also bringing together an extensive array of research expertise from Australian universities and other research organisations. So I look forward very much to watching you work together. Look forward very much to the success of this training centre and its applications to chemistry, advanced manufacturing and commercial products that will transform Australia's chemical industries. So once again, can I congratulate everybody who's been involved in setting up the centre. And on that note, I'd like to conclude and now invite Senator James Paterson, who is here today representing the Minister for Education, the Honourable Dan Tehan, to speak. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Thomas, and can I add my acknowledgement to all the various distinguished guests that have already been recognised here today. I doubt I have ever been in a room with so many professors and doctorates at any one time, so it's great to be here. I'm very pleased to be here today for the launch of the ARC Training Centre for the chemical industries, and I was lucky enough to go on a tour of the facilities just before we met here in this room, and having made it all the way to Year 11 chemistry, I of course had a very sophisticated understanding of what you do here, but I was very impressed to see the really fantastic facility that you've got. As mentioned by Professor Thomas, I'm here today representing our Minister for Education, the Hon. Dan Tehan MP, who sends his apologies. I was really excited to take up this opportunity to see firsthand the really important research the training centre that you have established here will be doing at the University of Melbourne, with the significant support that you're receiving from the Australian Government. In Australia, as many of you will know, the chemical industry is a $38.5 billion enterprise, employing about 60,000 people and contributing to about 15% of all Australian manufacturing. The industry directly contributes over $11 billion to Australia's gross domestic product each year. So it's fantastic to be part of an Australian government that is supporting this new training centre by providing nearly $3.3 million through the Australian Research Council's Industrial Transformation Training Centres scheme. This ARC Training Centre for the Chemical Industries, based at the University of Melbourne, unites significant research expertise from across the chemical industry and the Australian higher education sectors. Importantly, this ARC Training Centre also places its early career researchers at the centre of its program, ensuring that the next generation of our research workforce are industry ready. It's pleasing to see that your ARC Training Centre is leveraging really significant industry support and expertise from your partner organisations within the chemistry industry. If we're to give Australia's chemical industry the edge that it needs and to improve our global competitiveness, it's vital that these collaborations continue to be nurtured. I know that skilled and productive talent is a real priority for the chemical industries, with the Australian Academy of Science Decadal Plan for Chemistry calling for a vigorous chemistry education system. It's great that your ARC Training Centre will help address the chemical industry's need for highly skilled STEM graduates that are equipped with excellent academic training as well as relevant industry skills and experience. Led by your director, Dr. Tash Polyzos, these high calibre researchers and industry experts involved in the ARC Training Centre will be great mentors to the next generation of research talent. It's a fantastic opportunity for our young researchers to embark on a research career pathway with real experience in conducting industry-focused research. There is no doubt that your centre's research will improve Australia's chemical and manufacturing capabilities. So it gives me great pleasure to be here today to help officially launch the ARC Training Centre for the Chemical Industries. I look forward to following your progress as you continue to build your world-class industry-led research environment here at the University of Melbourne, and that it will create new commercial opportunities, job opportunities for Australia and enhance our global opportunities. Thank you and congratulations to everyone for your involvement.
Aleks.
Good afternoon, colleagues and distinguished guests. So I'm Aleks Owczarek and I'm the Deputy Dean of the Faculty of Science here at the University of Melbourne. Thank you for joining us today for this launch of the ARC Training Centre for Chemical Industries. I'd like to pay a special welcome to Senator James Paterson and Professor Sue Thomas, the CEO of the ARC. The opportunities of this centre that offers to students, industry partners and academics wouldn't be possible without the ARC providing the $3.3 million through the Industrial Transformation Training Centre grant. The centre is a demonstration of the strength we can all gain through collaboration. Though the centre is based here at the University of Melbourne, it benefits from the expertise and resources provided by our colleagues at the University of New South Wales and Swinburne University of Technology. Furthermore, the centre's collaboration with its industry partners ensures that it will address real-world problems and provide a framework for employers of STEM graduates to engage with researchers and students. CSIRO, Chemistry Australia, Qenos, Dulux Group, PPG Industries and DCS Technical are all on board to help deliver skills and ideas to the advanced manufacturing sector, and we are grateful for the opportunity to grow our ties with these organisations. In planning for this centre, Dr. Tash Polyzos and his colleagues listened to industry perspectives about how to help graduates succeed in the workplace and developed a program that delivered for both the graduates and for the industries and employers. This program includes the new Master of Industrial Research, which will commence in 2019. Alongside its more traditional science and engineering components, this course will include content that enhances students' understanding of business, regulatory affairs and communication. Students will be given the opportunity to put these into practice with a 12-month placement with one of our partner organisations where they will contribute to industry-led projects. Congratulations to Tash and everyone who's been working on this with such dedication and determination over the past year or so to establish this training centre. It's an incredibly innovative and exciting initiative, and it is something that the University of Melbourne is very proud to be hosting. I wish the centre, and especially its future students, the utmost success going forward. Thank you.
Now thank you, Aleks. It gives me great pleasure now to introduce Martina Stenzel, my co-director.
Thank you very much. I'm Martina Stenzel. I'm from the University of New South Wales, and it's a pleasure to be here. I would like to welcome our distinguished guests, and I would like to thank particularly the ARC for funding, otherwise we wouldn't be here today. And I would like to start off with a little story that sounds very much like a fairy tale. Once upon a time, there was a university chemistry professor who developed a process that is crucial first step to make fertilizer. A company was very interested in this process, but the process was not yet industrially viable. Luckily, the company employed a chemical engineer who was able to help. He made it possible that this process could be applied on an industrial scale, as he had in-depth knowledge in chemistry and engineering. The process made a lot of money for the company. The chemistry professor and the engineer got a Nobel Prize. Sounds like a beautiful story, and it's actually a true story. The company involved is BASF. The professor is Fritz Haber, who had his labs at the Karlsruhe University and won the Nobel Prize in 1918. The engineer was Carl Bosch, who got the Nobel Prize in 1931. And we know now BASF is one of the biggest chemical companies in the world. The Haber-Bosch process was developed in 1913 and became one of the most important chemical processes. It facilitated the synthesis of fertilizer and made a huge impact on the life of many people. What is important about this story is that we had a company with a vision, an employee who was employed to develop new science for the company, and a university academic who was willing to work with the company. They all had one common aim: to make this process a success. It would have been interesting to see how they actually interacted with each other, coming from all these different corners. But one is sure, they had respect for each other, they respected each other's field, and they had one big vision. We needed to be reminded again that good things really come from different people being in one room together. It can lead to new ideas, it can inspire, it It can also be a sobering experience for some people, especially when we want to translate small-scale lab experiments to industrial processes. Professor David Solomon, who is the co-inventor of the Australian plastic money, always emphasized when he talked to me that it was really an important experience for him that he did his PhD in an industrial setting. It's really helped him later on to understand what is required to make inventions that have an impact. However, this pathway is really rare today. Almost all students do their PhD in an academic setting away from industry. The first time our students have contact with industry and businesses is most likely when they have the first job interview. The current disconnect between university and what I would like to call the real world was identified by the Chemistry Decadal Plan that was published by the Australian Academy of Science in 2016. A few years ago, the National Chemistry Committee of the Academy of Science asked the question, what are the strengths and weaknesses of the chemistry field in Australia? What do we have to do to ensure that chemistry in Australia will stay relevant in 10 years? Very quickly, 4 areas were identified. First, raise chemistry knowledge and skills, which applies to, of course, to our schools and to universities. Secondly, improve the image of chemistry in the public. And as a third point, it was recommended to improve the capability of the research sector. Finally, raise the level of innovation efficiency, enhance the capacity of industry to innovate. This encompasses closer collaboration between university and industry. One thing underpins all these things was that we need more equity and diversity in our chemistry sector. Today we're here to celebrate that we're getting one step closer to bring industry and academics together. Our ITTC for chemicals industry aims at giving our students more industrial relevant skills at the end of their chemistry or chemical engineering degree. The student will work predominantly in the company, getting exposed to the daily challenges and a new way of thinking. Moreover, academics and industry would work closely together trying to solve real-life problems. Similar to Harbour, Bosch, and BASF, we hope that the collaboration will be fruitful, opening the door to new thinking in new fields on both sides, academics and industry. We believe that our ITTC for chemical industry can bring people together, be it business, government organizations, researchers, lawyers, and many more, to work together to a common aim, transforming chemistry in Australia. Thank you.
Thank you, Martina. And now I would like to welcome our guest speaker for today, Professor Angell Holmes.
Thank you, Tash. Senator James Paterson, Senator for Victoria, Professor Sue Thomas, Chief Executive Officer of the ARC, Professor Aleks Owczarek, who is Deputy Dean of Science, Professor Laura Curry, Professor Jim McCluskey, DVC Research, the University of Melbourne, Dr. Tash Polyzos, Director, and Professor Martina Stenzel, Deputy Director and representative of the UNSW node of this centre, and also Martina is Chair of the National Committee of Chemistry of the Academy of Science. You, the distinguished guests and members of this, now the acronyms are confusing me because I see ATCI up here now. That's what I should now say, is it, rather than ITTCCI. Warmest congratulations on the establishment of this centre. I too pay my respects to the traditional owners of the land on which we meet. This is a real landmark day, I think, for us, celebrating the commitment of academic and industrial chemists to work together in partnership. And we thank the ARC, and we congratulate the various industrial partners who've joined with academic partners to make this possible. I'm a passionate, enthusiastic advocate for industry-academic collaborations, and I've been asked by Tash to share a few of my own experiences in this, so I hope that this will encourage those of you who are about to embark on this enriched partnership. looking back over my career, I realized that quite a lot of, I'm an organic chemist, so I'm going to be a bit biased speaking about organic chemistry, but over my career, a lot of organic chemists had serious elevations in their career trajectory through industrial collaborations. But then there were those who shunned any kind of interaction with industry, and they were rather regarded themselves as purists, and they thought working with industry was distasteful. But that attitude really has changed over perhaps the last 10, 15 years, as we as academic researchers realize that we have to convince those that govern us that our work has impact. And so I think there's been a real sea change in that direction. So Fraser Stoddard, who received a Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 2016, actually embarked on a change in career which eventually led to the winning of the Nobel Prize with his colleagues for discovering molecular machines, because he went to ICI, the old ICI and corporate lab in Runcorn in Cheshire, and worked on the interactions of paraquat, the weed killer, with organic molecules, and that led him to make the rings and the catenanes and then the machines. So people really are influenced by those kinds of experiences. Very important to take them up. In my own case, interactions with academia were stimulated very strongly by a scheme called the Cooperative Awards in Science and Engineering in the UK, in which an academic received a doctoral funding for a doctoral student, and the company didn't pay too much. I think that's quite important to start these things. So the company topped up the student's stipend. That was terrific for the student. They gave the project money for consumables. That was terrific for the researcher. And the students spent a minimum of 3 months during their doctorate in the industrial company's research labs. Now, what did that mean? Well, of course, for the researchers, as I've said, it meant money, and of course, more importantly, interaction with industry on real problems. And also the student was well versed, as we've heard in the other speeches, in industry's ways. This wasn't their first contact with industry, so they were rather attractive people to recruit for jobs later on. And for the company, well, they had first access to the IP on shared fair basis, but that wasn't what motivated them. What really motivated the company was that their recently appointed employees, who were still had happy memories of academic life, could continue that engagement with academic researchers and be stimulated by that opportunity and by publishing papers. And of course, the unsaid thing was that they all had a window on the science going on in those departments where they held these awards. So they got a really free early look at what was going on, and that gave them first pick of the cherry, if you like, in recruiting for people to go into the company. So it was a win-win situation all round. They were highly sought after because of these multiple advantages. And at the height of the program, I guess I was lucky enough to have opportunities with about 20 different companies. Now, it doesn't matter how many, it matters about how many opportunities there are. Here in Australia, the Australian Academy of Science has tried to respond to the government's challenge to enhance good interactions between academic research and industry. And you've heard mention of the 10-year decadal plan, which was led by Paul Mulvaney, who's in the audience, and now is being implemented by Martina and her colleagues in the National Committee of Chemistry. We've also held a Falling Walls laboratory every year. This is the third year. It's just finished about a week ago. And this allows young researchers in a 3-minute presentation to present their breakthrough ideas. The winners, 2 finalists, end up going to Berlin for the final Falling Walls competition, where they present breakthroughs from their work that are likely to represent the next wall that's going to fall down. And this, as you might guess, is held on the day that the Berlin Wall fell down, in the 9th of November. So this is a really exciting opportunity for young researchers to talk about their ideas. Another thing that we've been taken with is a Scottish initiative called Interface. Perhaps some of you have come across it. It's a hub connecting a wide variety of businesses and academic research institutions and research institutes, 23 or so in Scotland. And in 2013, the connectivity created through interfaces work. I think there are now about 20 staff. It started with about 3. It's government funded. Had helped to generate in 2013 an estimated 17 million gross value added, 17 million pounds gross value added, and they could claim attribution to be supporting more than 350 jobs. So that's something we're quite keen on trying to replicate here in Australia. Do you think we can do it? I hope so. We should give it a try, I think. Meanwhile, here in the ATCI, we have this wonderful local opportunity of interacting with the chemical industries. And of course, traditionally, this part of the world, I think we can be very proud of the strength of the chemical industry here. So I commend this to you. And my advice to everyone is that everyone benefits when they take a keen interest in what's going on around them, no matter where the action is based. So I'd like to back this idea up with a personal anecdote to finish. In my lab in Cambridge, we had a visit from an industrial researcher who was keen to establish curiosity-driven research in collaboration with us. And we talked for a while, and the enthusiasm built, and eventually this gentleman said, "Now you do know who we are?" And I said, "Oh yes, of course, you're AWG, the Angell Water Group." He said, "No, you've got the last noun wrong. We're AWE, the Atomic Weapons Establishment." Well, my heart missed a beat. I gulped, and I said, "We'll work with anyone who wishes to collaborate with us." And we did, and they were interested in funding curiosity-driven science. And in fact, it funded continuously for, I think, at least 5 years, my 2 senior academic colleagues with a fully funded postdoctoral researcher each for those 5 years. So this idea, I was talking with Peter Berry from Chemistry Australia, this idea of building relationships has to start slowly. You have to build a trust, and then things can really take off, and I think you'll have a fantastic ride. So there are 2 things to remember. The first is serendipity. As Horace Walpole said, the occurrence and development of events by chance in a happy and beneficial way. And the second is the observation by Louis Pasteur, chance favors the prepared mind. With those 2 guiding principles as your compass, you're guaranteed to enjoy a wonderfully successful industry transformation training centre in the chemical industries. Congratulations and good luck. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrew, for your words of wisdom and your advice. Being a fellow organic chemist, I saw no bias in your talk whatsoever. So before we embark on the final formality of today's celebration, I would like to take the opportunity to acknowledge the contribution and support of our talented colleagues and remarkable organisations who have made this centre a reality. The Australian Government and the Australian Research Council have been incredibly generous with their funds, and I thank you sincerely. I thank the University of Melbourne for being incredibly supportive, particularly Jim McCluskey's office, DVCR, for their very generous contributions to the centre. I also thank the University of New South Wales and our partner, Swinburne University. Our partners are not faceless organisations. It's not just logos, they are people. We love working with people. So on here, I have listed the names of our partner investigators and the organisations in which they reside. So thank you, first of all, to Samantha Reid and Peter Burry. Peter, you seeded this. You worked very hard to make this possible, and I do thank you. I also thank Dulux Group. Chris Such and Tim Davey were also significant contributors to this initiative. Helen Ryan and Craig Smith from PPG, thank you. I also thank Dr. Brian Egan and Qenos and Predrag Micic, who was also a contributor. I also thank Dr. John Taniktidis from CSIRO and Director Keith McLean. And finally, I thank David Samet from DCS Technical. Beyond that, I also would like to thank the Herculean efforts of our chief investigators in writing the grants. There were many sleepless nights in preparing the grants, and Sue, I'm sure you could appreciate the amount of effort that goes into this. There was lots of coffee and lots of sending documents late in the evening to meet those ever challenging deadlines. So I won't go through all the names. You know who you are, and thank you very much for your contributions. As I said, I would like to thank the other officers here at the University of Melbourne, Chancellery led by Professor McCluskey. I also would like to thank people and individuals from the Faculty of Science, from Karen Day, Aleks, Laura Parry, Nicola Presling and Joe. From the School of Chemistry, I would like to acknowledge Evan Biskey, Ashok and Ken Gigino for facilitating the discussions and support. Department of Chemical Engineering, who are our partners in this centre, Professor Sandra Kentish, who was also head of school. I also would like to thank Research Innovation and Commercialisation, so Anita Vetches and Gary Nguyen, who have been incredibly supportive of putting the grants together. Madeline Crawford from Legal. Madeline did a remarkable job in tying all of the agreements together. You could imagine the complexity of such agreements that are required with multiple partners, so I do thank Madeline. And I also thank Ilya Sotalo, who did a fantastic job in the business development of putting the grant together. So finally, here are some personal thank you and personal recognitions. Laura Parry, you're the person who made this possible. Thank you for your efforts. I also thank my co-director, Professor Martina Stenzel. Thank you for your discussions and making this possible and pushing it all the way through from New South Wales. I would also acknowledge Professor Scott Cable and Evan Biskey, heads of the Schools of Chemistry. And finally, I'd like to thank Ilya Sotalo, Senior Business Development Manager, and our coordinator, Aaron Gosling, who was not only facilitated the relationships with the partners and between the academics and the chief investigators, but also in putting today's event together. So I very much look forward to working with you. So now I would like to invite Senator Paterson and Sue Thomas to officially open the ATCI Training Centre with the ceremonial cutting of the ribbon that we have up here. That's all right. Thank you. All right, that went much better than I thought it was going to go. Okay. So, look, and it's a great job with the colour coordination there, Aaron. I think it looks fantastic. So, anyway, look, I thank you so much for joining us today. This is a celebration. It's a celebration not only about the organisation, a celebration of the people who support it and the organisations who do support it. So, thank you. So that concludes the formalities for today's event. I now invite you to join us in the atrium for some further drinks and some further food. Thank you.